You matter. You matter. Till the day that you die, you will matter. And I hope you can see that you're worth being free, 'cause you matter.
My name is Charissa Schalk, and thank you for joining me as we look at accusation and justification from a biblical perspective and through the lens of my leveraged relationship model. God is righteous and just. Justice is getting what you deserve. It is here that we get a bit messed up and confused, like Job and his buddies did. So let's take a closer look at the biblical story of Job. Job was healthy, wealthy, and had popular kids. What more could he want? Then his adversary said to the Lord, "Of course he loves you. Why wouldn't he?" Soon after this, all Job's popular kids were killed in accidents, his wealth was destroyed, and, no surprise here, his health deteriorated. Since most of us share the beliefs of Job's friends regarding God's justice, we can probably understand their search for a skeleton in Job's closet. Job must have done something to deserve this. We can understand Job, too, in his confusion. He knows that God is just, but he can't think of anything that he has done to bring on all this trouble. Job and his friends went round and round in their reasoning. Job justified himself and accused God of injustice, while his friends justified God and accused Job of some hidden sin. Enter the new kid on the block, telling them all to shut up. God is God, said the new kid, and he can do whatever he jolly well pleases. But what about justice? Let's pause here to pull my leveraged relationship model into this context. In the story of Job, God occupies the power position in his relationship with Job, and Job occupies the vulnerable position in the relationship. My leveraged relationship model is characterized by many responsibility dyads, as the power position has one responsibility and the vulnerable position has a different but corresponding responsibility. This is no exception. One of the responsibilities of the power position is creating or providing an environment in which the vulnerable position can flourish. The vulnerable position grows and flourishes in response to that environment. What Job was experiencing throughout the bulk of the recorded story is indisputably trauma, and trauma is not an environment in which anyone can flourish. However, we all get stuck at times, just as Job had done prior to the trauma. We know he was stuck in a fearful, defensive position, and there were other areas in which he needed more freedom and understanding as well. This is where we can get really, really confused. Remember, it's the responsibility of the power position to provide an environment in which the vulnerable position can flourish, and trauma is not an environment in which anyone can flourish. Yet trauma is exactly what God provided for Job. My experience and education have led me to conclude that once we reach adulthood, trauma may be the only doorway to radical change. As long as we are capable of handling life as we've been doing it, we will continue doing life pretty much that way, even if it's stressful and destructive. Even when we see someone with a better life and lifestyle, and even if we want that better life, we are unlikely to abandon our long-held beliefs and deeply ingrained patterns to take hold of it for ourselves. It may not even be possible for us to do so. Enter trauma, which breaks those beliefs and patterns on our behalf. What we do, of course, is immediately look for the bad guy. We may accuse and blame ourselves, or other people, or Satan, or God. We desperately try to save ourselves. What's more, that's unavoidable. How can we not do all that? Those of us who desire God's will in our lives, though, and even some who don't, eventually discover that the trauma was only a birth canal leading to a bigger, brighter world with enormous possibilities for growth and prosperity. The trauma wasn't the end of the story, but the beginning. So let's return to Job's story and resolve our confusion about justice. Our problem is that we're looking at justice from the wrong direction. We look at it from the present backwards. What did I do to deserve this? If you've experienced trauma, I can almost guarantee that you've asked what you did to deserve it. If not, you've probably asked what someone else did to deserve the trauma they are experiencing. But remember, trauma is a doorway to something. It's a beginning more than an end. God looks from the present forward. What will I do to make it right? He sees the chains that have held us captive, and he has done what had to be done to break those chains. We can't flourish in trauma, but perhaps we can't flourish without the trauma either. In the story of Job, we see that God did administer justice. Job acknowledged God's omnipotence and forgave his friends, who, you'll remember, had justified God and accused Job. And the next thing we know is that Job had twice as many popular kids, twice as much wealth, and good health for a good many years. Perhaps none of that would have been possible without the trauma to break his old, unhelpful beliefs and patterns. If you're experiencing trauma, you're probably cramping your brain trying to figure out what you did to deserve it, but you won't figure it out. You're probably desperately trying to save yourself from your distress, but to no avail. When all is ready, God will show you what your part was, without even a smidgen of condemnation, and he'll give you power to change. But the important point isn't what you did, it's what God will do. This is Charissa Schalk, reminding you to take good care of yourself, especially in times of trouble and trauma, because it's God's heart for you, and you are worth it.